All right, in this video, I'm going to give you the beginner's guide to technical SEO. I'm going to cover exactly what technical SEO is, and then I'm going to cover all of the practical steps that you need to do to actually implement it on your website. So it's obviously a very big topic. However, there's only a number of things that are actually practically useful for most people. I'm going to cover those in this video, show you exactly how to do them. Now, just quickly before we get started, if you'd like me to coach you on how to do SEO for only $49 a month, go to learndominatemarketing.com. And if you'd like us to do your SEO with guaranteed results, go to dominatemarketing.io and book a call with us there. Right, let's get into it. So what is technical SEO? So technical SEO is actually a form of on-page SEO. So you've got two parts of on-page SEO. One is the content, so the blogs, the articles, the pages, the actual content written on it. And the second is technical SEO. So technical SEO includes all of the on-page factors that are not the content. So things like website loading speed, image sizes, alt text, metadata, headings, and things like that. And I'm going to go into all of those in this video. These are just as crucial for SEO as content and backlinks, if not more so, because if your technical SEO is done incorrectly or there are issues with your site, it's not going to rank regardless of how many backlinks you have and what content you have. It's actually probably more important. So what are the technical SEO aspects and how to do them? Here are all the parts that I recommend you focus on. So first of all is the website and URL structure. So how is the website actually structured and how are the URLs structured? Now, I've spoken about how to structure your website in my silo video for SEO reasons. I recommend you go watch that. The link is above. You can go and watch how to structure your website in a silo for SEO reasons, as that's the way I recommend doing it. But basically, your website needs to have a clear structure that Google can actually crawl and it makes sense. And the URLs need to be in a clear structure and they need to be short. The typical rule is 3 to 4 words max for the actual URL. So what I mean by URL is if we go to a website, let's say we go to my website here, you can see that the URL is .com/blog/coilovers, which is the category, and then Max Peating Rods review. That's it. That's 2 words. And that's how the URLs should be done. Very short and just the keyword in the URL. That's how you want to do it. Now, the next thing is the meta titles and descriptions. So the meta titles and descriptions are the things that actually show up in the Google search results. So if we go into the Google search results, just to give you a random example, you can see here, this is the meta title and this is the meta description. So it's actually what shows up in the actual Google search results page. The meta title also shows up in the actual tab in your web browser. Now, what you need to do is make sure that these are unique on each page and include the main keyword in the meta title, because a meta title is a ranking factor and Google looks at it to see what that page is about. So you want to make sure that you got the keyword in there, the main one that you want to rank for. Now, the description is not a ranking factor, but you can use it to increase the click-through rate. So for instance, if we go here, you can see you can use this text to try and incentivize people to actually click on your search results by including various keywords or making a specific offer, trying to grab their attention. So that's what you want to use the description for. Now, the third thing is headings. So the H1 headline, the H2 headline, and so on. So these are the headlines on the actual page itself. If we go back to my blog post, you can see here, this is the main headline. This one is H1 format. Then in here, you got H2 format. This will be H2. These are now H3s under the H2. How this is formatted is actually very important. You need to make sure that you only have one H1 headline per page, and you need to include the main keyword in the H1 headline. Same like with the meta description. The H1 headline is the most important thing that Google looks at in terms of content on the website to figure out what that page is about and then whether it's going to rank it or not. So you want to make sure that you have the keyword you want to rank for in here. Now, you also want to make sure you include variations of the keywords in the H2 and H3 headlines. So if we go back to my website, you can see here I have the brand name in here. Then we've got a variation of that keyword. Then if we go here, we got another one again. Here is, are they actually really good? So that's the variation of that keyword. You can see here, you've got it again and again. So this is an example of how you need to put variations in them. You can have the variations in the H3s as well. You also want to make sure that the H2s and H3s follow a logical format. So what that means is you got one H1 headline at the top of the page, then the H2 formats are the sub headlines then. And then under that, if you have H3s or H4s, they need to be like H1, H2, an appropriate H3, H3 if you're going to have more than one. And then the next one will be an H2 for the next main subsection, and then H3s under that again. You don't want to have like H1, H4, H2, H4, H3, like randomly all over the page. They need to be in a logical format because Google scans that, looks at that, and figures out what the content's about and how it's structured. If it's all over the place, it's going to impact you. Now, Mobile responsiveness. The website needs to be mobile responsive. These days, more than 65% of users are on mobile, so you need to make sure that the website's actually working on mobile correctly. It needs to load fast on mobile. It needs to display correctly across all mobile devices. You need to make sure that the text is easy to read on mobile, and you need to make sure that all the buttons are easy to press. So if you want them to contact you, to purchase something, whatever, it needs to be easy to press and actually usable on mobile. You can't have a website that doesn't do mobile anymore, because Google is now also prioritizing mobile over desktop. So if it doesn't look good on mobile, they're not going to rank your website. It's as simple as that. The next thing is image size and alt text. So what this means is how big is the image size itself. Now I don't mean physically how large is the image. I mean when you open it, how many megabytes is it? So how long does it take to load? That's what's important here. So you need to make sure that the image size, meaning the megabytes of the image, or kilobytes ideally, it shouldn't be megabytes, are as small as possible while retaining the quality of the image. Now typically you do that by reducing the actual width and height. You can also do that by compressing the quality, but you want to make sure that it still looks good. If you have a pixelated image that looks rubbish, it's going to bring down the value of your website. You won't keep users on there for as long. So you need a balance between those two. You can definitely do it. You can also convert images to formats like WebP to help you with that. There are plugins that will do that on WordPress, and other systems like Shopify typically do that automatically. So you want to do that. You also want to make sure you have relevant alt tags on each image that include the keyword, but also describe what the image is. So what I mean by alt text is, if we go into the admin section of my website and we go to media, this is on WordPress, but this applies to every platform. It'll all allow you to have alt text. We go here and we open one of the images. Let's say this one's a thumbnail for one of my videos. You have the alt text here. And basically what you want to do here is you want to include the keyword that's relevant to whatever that image and what page it's going on, but you also want to actually describe the image. So let's say, for instance, if it's a woman sitting on a beach modeling a hat and it's for an e-com store selling the hat, you don't want to just put the name of the hat model here. You would want to put woman on the beach modeling the name of the hat. And then that includes the keyword, but also describes what the image is about, because Google uses the alt text to figure out what it is and categorize the images correctly so that they can actually rank them and put them in the correct places. So you want to make sure that you have the correct alt text and actually have done the alt text on every one of your images. It's very important. Don't overlook this. Now, the next thing is this XML sitemap. The XML sitemap is basically a plain text map of your actual website. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. This is an example of a sitemap for my website. And if we click either page or post, you can see here, it'll give you an outline of all the different pages on the actual website. So if we go back and go to posts, you'll see here, it'll list out all of the posts on my website. This is a sitemap. It's basically a map telling Google what pages are on the website and what's the structure of them. What's the parent page? What's the child page? What's the structure of the whole website so that Google can actually crawl it. So this is usually taken care of by SEO plugins like Yoast or All-in-One SEO, whatever you're using. However, if it isn't, you can generate one manually at this URL here. I'll put a link to this in the description below. And basically what you would do is you go to that URL, which is this website. You would take your URL, you would paste it in here. And what's going to happen is it's going to process and it'll make you a URL. And at the end, it's going to say your sitemap is ready to download. It will be in a .xml format. So make sure you save it as .xml. I'm just going to cancel it, but you would save that file that it spits out. Then you need to upload it to the main folder of your website, or upload it in a sitemap plugin if you have one that asks you to upload it. And then you need to go and submit that to Google Search Console. So once you've got it uploaded to your website, what you would do is go to Google Search Console, and in here you got sitemaps. You want to go here and you would just input the URL of the sitemap. So you go sitemap.xml, which is usually the URL of it, and you hit submit. As you can see, mine is already submitted, and then URL will know that the sitemap exists, and it will go and actually crawl the sitemap and see how many pages are on your website. It'll know all of the pages, and it's going to allow Google to crawl it a lot easier so that it's actually aware that the pages exist, and then it's more likely to show them on the search results. Now, the next thing is the SSL certificate. So this is the certificate that shows your website is secure. If we go into the actual URL, you can see here, if we click this, you can see connection secure. If you don't have an SSL certificate, it's going to say not secure, and in some cases will show a big error across your whole page and not let users enter. And obviously that's going to be bad for SEO. But not only that, Google will actually drop your website in rankings. They have officially announced that they will look at that, and it will drop if you don't have SSL. Now, this is something that you need to sort out with your hosting provider. Typically, when you get a domain and website hosting, you can just click add to add the SSL certificate, and they'll throw it on. With some hosts, it's free and included. With some, it isn't. It depends on your hosting provider. Just make sure that you have that. If you don't know how to do it, just talk to their support. Tell them you need the SSL certificate, and they'll typically take care of it for you. You also need to make sure that the HTTP version of your website redirects redirects to the HTTPS version. So what this means is, if we go back to my website, when you have a valid SSL certificate, it will load HTTPS. The S just means secure. So if I remove that S from here, you can see how it's now HTTPS. If I remove this S, it should forward now redirect to the HTTPS version. It should not load the HTTP version. So you can see here it's loaded the HTTPS version. So you need to make sure you have that redirect set up in order for it to do it properly. Now, one way you can do that is if you go into the WordPress admin, if you are using WordPress, and you'd need to go into settings and go general. And then you need to put the website URL in here. You'd actually want to change this to HTTPS. Now, I'm not going to touch it on my one because I've done it a different way, but you can see here that if you set that to HTTPS and you hit save, typically speaking, WordPress will take care of it for you. So that's how you want to take care of that one, usually. Now, if you're using a different platform, you'd need to figure out how to do it there. Usually, if you talk to their support or you search online, you can find out how. Obviously, I can't cover every single platform in this video, but you need to make sure that that's done. Now, the next thing is redirect. So redirect is if you have a broken URL, instead of showing a 404 page, it should redirect them to the most appropriate page. So you need to make sure if you've changed the URL of any pages or things like that, that you actually redirect the old URL to the new URL. If it's a random broken URL from a long time ago or something, you want to redirect it typically to the most appropriate page to do with the old URL. That's basically that. If you don't have any broken 404s or anything like that, you don't need to worry about it. One way you can actually check this is to go into Google Search Console and go to pages. And here it'll throw out a list of 404s if you haven't already. You see here, not found 404. If it gives you a long list of these and they're actually pages that did previously exist and that you want to forward, you want to make sure that you forward those to the correct appropriate URL. Now, the next thing is schema. So schema is code that basically tells Google what is on the particular page you're on. So this is usually done by SEO plugins. So typically speaking, you don't need to worry about it. It can get a little bit complex, but if it's not done, what you can do is generate schema by going to this website here, and then you just want to paste it in every page in the content. So in here, you can go and you'd be able to go and actually generate schema for your particular website. So we can just use an example here. If I put mine, is this will test if schema is actually on here. And you can see it's detected schema, which is now telling the website, which is now telling Google what this is actually about, what the page is about. And you can go in and edit this and add certain things to make it more appropriate if you need to, but typically speaking, you don't need to worry about that, especially if you have an SEO plugin installed. Usually takes care of it for you. I recommend just doing it that way and not worrying about it. Just make sure it's there. Now, same thing with canonical tags. If you have multiple pages that are very similar to each other, for instance, sometimes you get like e-commerce platforms will make product pages and there's like slight variations, like for instance, a different color. It's exactly the same page, but it just makes a dynamic URL that can get recognized as two different pages. So what you would need to do is all of the different variations, you would need to point the canonical tag to the main product page as an example. So you need to make sure you do that. This is a little bit more advanced. However, if you find that you're having this issue, you may need to do this. Now, if you're a beginner, you'll probably have to talk to someone who knows what they're doing to actually correctly set this up for you, because it is a little bit of a complex process. But if you want to find out how to do it, there's definitely videos and guides online on how to actually do this, so you can go do that. Now, the last point you need to be aware of is Google's Core Web Vitals. So Google's Core Web Vitals are their way of measuring loading performance, interactivity, and visual stability of websites. So basically, you can get this report in the Google Search Console. If we go back to the Google Search Console and we scroll down on the menu on the left and we go to Core Web Vitals, you can see here, they actually scan all your URLs and give you a report on the problem. Now, it's showing that mine are all poor URLs, and if we open the report, it's going to tell us why. It's usually a loading speed issue, but you can see here, yeah, it's a loading speed issue. It takes longer than 4 seconds on mobile to load up the top section on my page, is probably to do with the image, and Google doesn't like that. So I need to go through and fix this. But basically, this report tells you what Google wants to see, and if it's poor, you're going to have a harder time ranking. You need to sort this out. So I'm actually going to have to go through and fix this on my website because I've been neglecting it for a bit. But that is what you need to do to go and fix this. So it's going to give you the report on what's going on, and then you need to go and correct these issues. And then as long as this is good to go, then you stand a much higher chance of actually ranking, because this is to do with user experience that Google is more and more focusing on, especially lately. So you need to be aware of that. That's it. That's pretty much all of the things that you really need to know in terms of technical SEO. There's certainly more things that you can get into, but at this point, it starts to get diminishing returns. Usually from 99% of websites, these things will cover everything that you need. And to be honest, these last three are more on the complex side that you probably don't even need to deal with in most cases. So it's usually from the redirects up. So I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I will catch you on the next one.